But on Raw Monday night, got to talk about this because we had the 10-year anniversary of the New Day. Not very often that you see a faction in wrestling that has been together consistently for this long. That alone should get them a Hall of Fame induction because this just never happens. And of course, Big E showed up, and I think everybody figured, how can you do a New Day reunion or a New Day anniversary and not have Big E there? But I got to give a shout out. I got to give credit where it's due because I included a question in the mailbag on last week's podcast, and you heard it. I played it at the beginning of the show from Mike in the Bronx. And he sent in a question and said it's just a crazy theory that nobody is talking about. It seems like the New Day are going to break up, but what if that's what the swerve is? And he said, meaning Kofi and Woods turn on Big E at the 10th anniversary so they can get major heat because, like you said, tag teams are thin, so why split them up? Not sure if Big E can take a bump, but just imagine heel New Day blaming Big E for the rut that they find themselves in since he got injured. That would be the ultimate swerve. And indeed it was the ultimate swerve, unless you listen to this podcast, of course. And then you would have already had the idea planted in your head from Mike in the Bronx. So a hat tip to Mike. I said last week, how are they going to get around Kofi Kingston telling Xavier Woods on Raw last week that the reason you aren't a world champion, that you've never been a world champion before like me, that you've never been a world champion like Big E, is because you're not good enough? Because the two of them were throwing bombs at each other. They were going back and forth, right? Woods told Kofi, we handed you the championship on a platter and you pissed it away in 6 seconds to Brock Lesnar. And you're wrestling like garbage lately. And then, Kofi said, look, I was a Hall of Famer when you met me. Don't forget that. You're too irrational. That's why me and E wouldn't let you make decisions. And just all these horrible things they were saying about each other. But that was the one that stood out to me. How are they going to get around that? How could Woods just forgive and forget a comment like that? And I feel like they found a way. Now, if you watch the segment, they come out and they look kind of sullen. They don't look like they're in a very happy mood, even though it was supposed to be a festive occasion. And they're about to break up. Like, clearly they're about to announce that they're about to break up the New Day. And that's when Big E came out. And Big E was there to let them know he's been watching and paying attention to what's been going on, and he's going to be their manager. He's going to be at ringside in their corner every single week going forward. And that led to Xavier Woods saying, now you come out? All this time me and Kofi have been at each other's throats now for months, going up to the edge of the cliff, and right before we're about to fall off, you show up and say, hey, I'm back. Right? You left us. And Big E is like, dude, I broke my neck. And then Kofi pipes up. This is where the swerve came in because you didn't think Kofi would agree with him. But Kofi agrees with Woods and says, you left us. You broke your neck. So what? Stone Cold Steve Austin broke his neck and he came back. Kurt Angle broke his neck and he came back. Edge broke his neck and he came back, even though he came back 9 years later, but we'll ignore that. Big E has not been gone for 9 years. But yeah, all these people broke their neck and they came back and they didn't even have people here waiting for them like you did. You had the two of us. We basically put our careers on hold. We didn't evolve. We stayed the same. We were waiting for you and you left us. You left us for your desk job. You left us for your other projects. You left us for your new girlfriend. And if you don't know, Big E's girlfriend is Mia Yim's sister, and she has been just smoking the two on social media all week. They've been really leaning into this angle here, and she's been healing on Woods and healing on Kofi and just absolutely eviscerating them on social media. But Kofi had to pull the girlfriend card and said, yeah, you're more interested in hanging out with her than you are us. And just on and on and on. And Big E is standing there and he looks like he's about to cry, like he can't believe what he's hearing. And he's saying, I've been trying, I've been getting scans and I've been going to doctors and I've been getting x-rays. And Woods says, look, let's stop teasing people and beating around the bush here and just let them know the truth. you will never be medically cleared. So why don't you go and sit at your desk and we'll call you if we need you. And Big E just looks devastated. He's like, no, we can't. You can't throw this away. 10 years. We're a family. Come on, right? And he ends up walking off. He's heartbroken. Kofi looks at Woods. Woods looks at Kofi. They're like, it's just you and me now. And they grip hands and they stand there and the crowd showers them in boos. And the New Day officially now are heels. I said, instead of the New Day, it's the new way. It's a new way forward now for Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. And it was genius using Big E as a way to get heat. And the reason that I'm okay with the way they did it, even though I was wondering how are they going to get around, these awful things they said to each other. The way I look at it is this. And maybe WWE will explain it this way. Maybe I'm coming up with a better explanation for it than they will. But this is kind of how I look at it and justify it. These two are directing all of their hate at Big E. And it's completely unfair because Big E did nothing wrong. Big E didn't, he didn't expect to get his neck broken. It's not his fault that he got his neck broken. It happened. And it ended his career, at least temporarily. And he's been trying very hard to get his checkups and, he wants to come back and he doesn't know if he'll ever be able to come back. But again, it wasn't anything that he sought. No one seeks to break their neck, right? So it's completely unfair and totally unwarranted for them to resent him for it or hate him in any way for it. But they're directing all of their hate at him to avoid taking responsibility for the very real criticisms that they had about each other the week before, right? Everything they said in that promo segment the week before was 100% true. Kofi did piss away the title to Brock Lesnar. Xavier Woods is reckless. He does take chances that he shouldn't have to take. He has demonstrated that he is not good enough so far to be world champion. So what's the easiest response to all this? Just blame somebody else, right? That's how people are. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this right now probably know people in their lives, in real life, who are like that. Blame everybody else for their problems and avoid taking responsibility for their own faults. That's how I look at the logic and the psychology here. The two of them, they came together because they were able to deflect away from the very real criticisms that they don't want to accept, that what they said about each other is true. So what's the easiest thing to do? We'll blame Big E. And that works for me as an explanation. If you look at it that way, I feel like that's a good way to look at it. Now, Meltzer had an item in the Observer this week about Odyssey Jones, who honestly I had forgotten about. You have not heard a word about Odyssey Jones since they cut him. And he said that when Odyssey Jones came in, the plan was they were going to tease issues with, them not getting along. But it would end with Kofi and Woods going heel by choosing Jones and having him publicly replace Big E in the New Day. But then he got fired and then the whole thing got put on hold. So in the end, we end up in the same place, only instead of three of them with Odyssey Jones, it's the two of them. And had they done it that way, it probably would have been more about getting Odyssey Jones over than getting Kofi and Woods over in any meaningful way. But in the end, we basically get to the same place anyway here. So it's not like the whole thing had to be thrown away. But the key here also, I think, is that I don't think in the promo that Xavier Woods would have come right out and said, let's just be honest with people. Big E, you're never going to be medically cleared. So go sit behind your desk. I don't think that line is in that promo unless they have some sense that either he's secretly cleared and they're not telling us, and maybe they're going to save him as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble because what a fucking reaction he would get if they hit his music and he came out there. Or they think that there's been progress and he might actually get cleared in the near future. Right? I could be wrong. It could just be a case where they're like, look, this is the reality of the situation, but if you're cool with it, let's just say it because it'll get great heat on Xavier Woods. It'll get great heat on the New Day. And so we'll just say the line. But I feel like that doesn't get said unless they know that he's either coming back or there's a pretty good chance he's going to be back soon. And look, I hope he gets cleared. I would hate for his career to end the way that it ended. Even if he can't be full-time and he can't wrestle the same way, he can't work a full-time schedule anymore. If he's able to get cleared and come back, even just to have a handful of matches, or just to have like a WrestleMania match against the other members of the New Day. They all get to work together. He can get the kind of closure on his in-ring career that he probably wants. I hope for his sake he can get cleared. And before this week, I would have said no. I don't think he's ever going to be cleared. But now I just hear that line and I'm like, I think he's getting cleared. And what a moment it would be. Imagine the Royal Rumble. He comes out as a surprise. He dumps out both Kofi and Xavier Woods. And then they build to a triple threat match, right? Triple threat, handicap, whatever it is. But they build to a New Day match at WrestleMania. Eventually, they're all going to reunite. There's going to be a big reunion at some point. It's going to get a great reaction. It'll be this big emotional thing. But for now, they have me interested in where things are going to go with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. I'm more interested now in the New Day than I probably have ever been. So it worked with me, and I thought that the segment and the angle was great.